Alright everyone, welcome back to
Unknown,
Unsolved
unseen,
Triple U.
woohoo, take two.
Yes, the dogs very kindly interrupted us, and when we say dogs, we are currently watching the family dog.
Interrupting like that. Yeah, so he just interrupted again.
Yep, he's a little bit high energy right now.
Yeah, so where we were, episode 40.
Almost to episode 50.
Yeah, it's not like we said this before or anything.
Episode 52 is actually what we're looking for.
Yeah, and that's going to be 1 year.
Oh my gosh, 12 weeks away.
Yeah.
But
I forget what we're doing for that one, if it's anything special or not. I know episode 51 is going to be Area 51 because I'm unoriginal and had to, coincide it.
What's that mean you'll do for 69?
A freaky alien abduction case. I already have that planned out.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, 69 has to be that. Oh, I'm pretty sure the guy has sex with the aliens.
Oh, well, everyone can look forward to that.
Yeah.
Chicka
wow wow.
But okay, any announcements that you need to tell the people today?
Well, first off, I want to announce that we have 2 dogs right now. We're watching our in-laws' dog, so we
Well, my mom's dog.
Yeah. We're struggling. Where was I last? Oh yeah, announcements. Check our Instagram page for any announcements. Besides us having the the dogs right now. Sorry if we sound like we lost our train of thought in the middle of the episode. Sometimes these two bark it up. They were sleeping until that damn Amazon person came and dropped off a package.
I know, I just can't help but order things.
All right, with the rest of the announcements, I don't even know where I was with his interruptions, but Sage will probably edit it well. Sorry if you hear chewing or walking. Those are the dogs.
Yes.
Regarding announcements, if you want to see upcoming events that are going on throughout the country for paranormal events and whatnot, go to our Instagram, like the Kecksburg UFO Fest, the West Virginia Bigfoot Festival. Let me think of other ones, Fearsome Folklore, and some others. Sorry, I'm getting a bit distracted here by 2 dogs walking around me and occasionally barking and growling at each other. You two, please play nice. Alright, so yeah, those are my announcements, just upcoming events and stuff, and yeah. Also, if you saw, we had a poll recently on our Instagram about doing mini episodes. Atlas, that's on you for not eating that food. Yeah, we had a poll recently on mini episodes, and you guys overwhelmingly voted yes, and 1 indifferent. So that's a yes in my book, technically, but no no's. So starting in, I believe, July, we will be releasing every other Friday a mini episode. Don't know what it should be called. Minisode, Flash Friday, Fast File. I don't know, something.
We'll figure it out by the time we post them.
A Wumbo file, for all I care.
What?
Wumbo.
I don't know what that is.
We don't know what the word wumbo is. I wumbo, you wumbo, he, she wumbo. Wumbology, SpongeBob. It's the study of wumbo.
Okay.
I can't believe you don't know the wumbo joke.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Alright, so yeah, you'll see that. The very first episode, just going to give you guys a little sneak peek, is going to be on the Dairy Ferry.
Dairy Ferry, who lived on Dairy Lane?
Dairy Ferry on Barry Drive during a merry time. It was scary.
Something like that.
Scary Dairy Ferry on Barry Drive. That was merry. Yeah, you guys, there's a lot of laughter in that episode to get through.
All right. We ready to head into this?
I believe so, Sage. So,
all right.
What all do you have in store for moi today?
So, today's episode is not going to be very laughing.
Oh, no.
So, we will not be following the Fast Friday episode, whatever we're calling it.
What is the trigger warnings for this episode?
I'm going to get into them. So, today we're going to be talking about a case that is likely going to be very sensitive to some viewers. We're going to be talking about the unidentified serial murderer named the Doodler. The trigger warnings for today will be murder via beatings and stabbing, homophobia, internalized homophobia, and discussion of police brutality. If these are things you're not interested in hearing, then we will see you next week for Frank's episode.
Yeah, actually, my next episode is not a light one either.
Well, then maybe we'll see you for my one after that when I decide what that is.
Sage is kind of familiar with what the next episode is going to be, so if you're listening to this later, you can already see what it is. If not, then yeah, it's going to be a haunting one, and it's a disturbing one. There's even a documentary on it. All right, Sage, where will you be taking us today?
I will be taking us to San Francisco, California.
San Francisco?
Yep, San Fran.
I never been there. Have you?
No, I have not.
I've been to Los Angeles and San Diego.
Nice. I've been to. I don't actually know.
So do tell me about what happened in San Fran.
So, just to set the scene a little bit, in the late 60s and early 70s, the gay liberation movement had begun following the success of other liberation movements across the world, like civil rights and the feminist movement. It was a social and political movement in the Western world that urged lesbians and gay men to engage in radical, direct action, so basically outright protests, and to counter societal shame with gay pride instead. As the feminist movement encouraged the personal becoming political, this movement also did that. It involved the most basic form of activism as an emphasis on, with an emphasis of coming out to family, friends, colleagues, and being able to live your life authentically and openly. While the movement lasted through the 80s and honestly still has remnants now, the majority considered it to be mostly over in the early 70s. And at this time, LGBT individuals from all over the globe were traveling to San Francisco, California, which at the time was seen as a sanctuary for those who were in the LGBT community. Here, their historically criminalized sexual or gender orientations could be treated with some semblance of legitimacy and respect. Also, the city had a flourishing and diverse nightlife and provided the LGBT community with social and sexual opportunities. I am referring to it as the LGBT community because in a historical context, that is what it is referred to. Nowadays, we would refer to it as the LGBTQ+. So when I am talking about the case in the history in the 70s, that's how it's going to be referred to, just in case anyone's wondering. Unfortunately, the city was policed by a traditionally conservative police force who had implemented a strict policy against hiring officers who identified in the LGBT community. The San Francisco Police Department would often raid LGBT establishments, engage in street harassment and beatings of the community, as well as submit them to displays of public humiliation that were underreported in the mainstream news. It comes as no surprise, then, that the LGBT community was very wary of the SFPD, the San Francisco Police Department, and that crimes against the LGBT individuals, such as muggings, beatings, and sexual assaults, frequently went unreported. With this conflict increasing the divide between the police and the LGBT community, there came a significant increase in violent crime against those who were in the LGBT community. In 1974, which is when this starts, in San Francisco alone, there were 129 LGBT individuals murdered and 131 murdered in 1975 in just the city of San Francisco.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming most go unsolved?
Yep.
That sucks.
Yeah. So to really showcase how the SFPD viewed members of this community, here's an example that I read across a couple different sources. In 1973, two San Francisco police officers pulled a gay man over for a minor traffic violation. By the time the incident was concluded, they had beaten the man so badly that he ended up suffering brain damage. The survivor of the attack received a six-figure settlement, but no criminal charges were brought against the officers because the survivor did not file a formal complaint.
Well, I mean, six-figure settlement, that's only goes so far whenever
You've been
brain
beaten
damage.
Yeah. It was also common knowledge in the LGBT culture that antagonizing the police brought nothing but harm upon an LGBT person. Additionally, the SFPD's director of personnel gave an interview in which he stated that LGBT people were of a, quote, bad moral character, and stated that the department would never hire a, quote, covert homosexual. So, fuck that guy. A member of the LGBT community from this time stated, quote, "It was a time when gay men were looked down upon, even in the queer mecca like San Francisco. The police were more likely to raid our bars and entrap us in cruising spots than to take a violent threat to our community seriously." And with this sentiment in mind, and understanding the mindset of, the police, those men to protect people, an unknown and unidentified serial killer nicknamed the Doodler was able to wreak havoc on the community, and he murdered at least 5 people, and is suspected of murdering up to 14.
Jeez.
But
Now, well, I assume you'll go and why he's named the Doodler.
yep, I'm actually going to get to that closer to the end. But this was between January of 1974 and September of 1975. So a year and 9 months or so. He also left behind 3 injured survivors, all of which were of a higher social standing, and that will come into play later. And he remains elusive and has never been convicted. This guy's still out there.
Do you think this person would still be around?
Probably. Because they think he was in his early 20s.
Oh, wow, that's young.
Yeah. So, at this time, the Doodler has 5 known victims, with one of them being ID'd in as late as 2022, which is crazy.
Only ID'd in 22.
Mm-hmm. And the rest of the ones that I'm going to talk about today were identified while the killer was still at large, which technically he still is, I guess. But again, police may believe, oh my gosh, again, police believe that he may have had as many as 14 victims, but I only got the identities of 5 of them. So at this time, I'm not sure what other victims there are, but when you look at 129 to 131 gay men or homosexuals being killed in the city alone, it's likely that there was probably other deaths due to this killer. The first known victim was found in the very early hours, about 1:57 a.m., on Sunday, January 27th of 1974. A caller phoned the station and reported, quote, "I believe there might be a dead person on the beach, across from Yoloa Street, if you follow the street right down to the water." Didn't give his name. Just hung right up. So, is it the killer? I don't know. Is it just a regular witness? Who knows? The body was found at the water's edge on San Francisco's Ocean Beach at the eastern edge of the large Golden State Park, and he was facing upward. The man had been stabbed multiple times, 17 or 16 times. I did see both. 17 was reported more, but I figured I'd put both in there. On both the front and the back of his body. The coroner states that the corpse was, quote, lying on the sand in a supine position. There were multiple
What position?
Supine. It's Supine. I don't actually know what that means. Lying on your back with your face and torso facing upwards. That would make sense.
I've never heard it called supine position.
Yeah, neither have I.
Probably more technical terms for investigation.
Definitely. There were multiple stab wounds, and there was apparent defense wound on the left little finger. The man was initially classified as John Doe number 7, the name given to victims who were unidentified. And again, he's found in early January, so I'm assuming that the 7 comes from being the 7th unknown body of the year, but I'm not sure. All of the identifying documentation and items had been removed from his body. That's why they didn't know who he was at first. And at the time of discovery, slight rigor mortis hinted that the murder may have taken place 2 to 6 hours previously, which would have been late Saturday night. The coroner determined that the victim had been conscious at the time he was killed and had attempted to resist the killer because the body had defensive wounds on the hands and arms. Ultimately, he was identified as 49-year-old Gerald Earl Kavanaugh.
Now, when was he identified?
Within a couple of weeks, I believe. Because he was one of the ones that was identified during the reign of the killer.
Okay.
So Gerald was born in 1923 in Canada and was a Canadian-American immigrant who came to San Francisco. Little's known about him, other than that he worked in a mattress factory and that he was Catholic. In a polite, restrained nod to his probable LGBT sexual orientation, the coroner indicated never married on the coroner's report. I put that in there because it's a sign of the times. Violence against members of the LGBT community was not uncommon, and police had very little evidence in this case to use as a basis for their investigation. Nonetheless, biological samples were taken at the crime scene and categorized, and the victim was buried according to his Catholic faith in the Holy Cross Catholic Cemetery in Colma. It's probable that the police knew that Gerald had been attending a nightclub in the gay area, known as Castro, that Saturday night, for when subsequent crimes ensued that I'm going to talk about, they were able to begin connecting this killer's MO, or modus operandi, essentially how this killer rolls and how he kills people. The second identified victim was Joseph J. Stevens, who was 27 at the time of his death, and he had been born in 1947 in Texas. So very big age differences. At 49, 27, almost half the age. As you can imagine, Texas would likely not be accepting of his orientation, and so he ended up moving to San Francisco in his late teens, where thousands of young people in similar situations were. Young people moving to San Francisco was very common because they did it to pursue a more authentic life, wherein their LGBT identities could be public without as much fear of persecution. He was discovered on June 25th, 1974, so about 5 months after the first victim had been found.
Wait. Oh, June. Sorry.
June.
For some reason, J&J, that January, I'm like, what do you mean 5 months between beginning and end of January?
Yeah. He was found by a woman who was walking her dog along Spreckles Lake in San Francisco. He was in the bushes by Spreckles Lake in Golden State Park, not far from his own abandoned car, leading police to believe that he had been alive at the time of reaching the beach, as he likely met the killer there, or he drove both of them there. Jay had been stabbed 3 to 5 times, again, I saw both numbers, and there was blood in his nose and his mouth. His identifying wallet and jewelry had been taken, leading him to also be classified as a John Doe, although I don't know the number, by police until he could have identification done. And again, it was during the within a couple of months they were able to get his identity. So according to the coroner's report, approximately 10 feet west of the deceased feet was a large disturbed area of brush with a pool of blood. There were drag marks from this point to where the deceased was found, indicating that an altercation had taken place. Coroners determined that at the time his body was found, he had died only a short while earlier, as he had been seen at the club late on the previous day. He was employed as a, quote, female impersonator, which was that time's way of saying a drag queen. And he was also a comedian. He was diving more into comedy at the time. It's unknown. This is something that because of them saying female impersonator, I just want to point out that it's technically unknown whether he identified with the pronouns he, him, or if he identified with female pronouns. We're not gonna unfortunately know, but I am gonna stick to the narrative that he went by he, him, because that is how all the other sources did. And at the time, gender identities weren't as well known, but I just don't want to negate the fact that it's possible. He could have been identifying as female rather than just as a drag queen.
All right.
Because female impersonator to me is kind of derogatory.
Yeah, no, I get it. I see what you mean.
You'll have to tell me if you think I'm pronouncing this right. Finocchios?
Well, it's hard to let you know if I think you're pronouncing it right or wrong unless I can actually know how it's spelled.
Finocchio.
Pinocchio?
Pinocchio.
Pinocchio?
Maybe?
Sure.
So,
it's like Pinocchio, but instead he has a big fin on his back. And that's what grows.
True. So, Finocchio's was a nightclub that opened its doors in 1933. So the word Finocchio means fennel. I don't know what language. It sounds Italian, so I'm
Most
assuming
likely
Italian.
because Pinocchio is Italian.
Yeah. But it also can be considered a slur for a gay man.
Oh.
So, I don't know if, they just decided they were taking that back, which, go them, I guess. Originally, it was not only a gay club, though. It did feature straight performers as well, and offered diverse shows to cater to an international crowd. But over the years, especially by the time we hit the 70s, it became a venue that specialized in drag, or, as they called it, female impersonators. Jay had recently been awarded a summer performance spot at the club. That was a huge deal for drag queens, and came after 8 years of performing in the city as a drag queen. He was beginning to transition his act to more of a comedy routine to showcase his diverse love of different performances. So he had worked for 8 years and just got to where he wanted to be, which was as a frontliner. The J. Stevens crime scene was only a mile from that on Ocean Beach, where Gerald Kavanaugh had been discovered in January. It was also considered that the location, which was picturesque and extremely isolated at that hour on a weeknight, this was a Monday night, I believe, was chosen as somewhere to enjoy a private sexual encounter. All signs pointed to Jay having gone to Spreckles Lake willingly, likely looking forward to an enjoyable encounter with a new romantic partner, and having been attacked either before, after, or during this encounter. It was reasonable to consider that he may have met his killer at the Cabaret Club, where he was at another club, as it was common practice among club goers to meet potential romantic partners in clubs and retreat to more private locations afterward. On the night of Monday, June 24th, 1974, Jay was seen leaving the Cabaret Club, which was located in North Beach, not far from where he worked at Finocchio's. It was not stated by police whether Jay was with a companion or alone, but future speculation by police that Jay was meeting someone leads to the conclusion that Jay was not noticed to be with any companions by any witnesses. Unless, again, if he drove them there. The point is, though, is he was a gay man. Although, well, throughout this whole thing, I say that they're gay or homosexual. It's not clear if that's actually how they identified. They could have been bisexual, pansexual, whatever existed in that time period. But for the sake of the discussion, these are gay men.
They're all identified as gay back then. That's just how it was.
Yeah, there was because queer was a slur at the time too. So the next victim, which is the third victim, was also discovered by a woman walking her dog in the morning on Sunday, July 7th, 1974. So just not too long later, 3 weeks. The body was found similarly to the first victim on Lincoln Way at Ocean Beach in San Francisco. Sadly, the death of this victim was more violent than the previous murders because he had considerably more stab wounds than both Gerald and Jay. He had also been slashed in the throat several times, unfortunately. One investigator who worked on the Zodiac killer case, another famous San Francisco case.
Oh, that's where it happened?
I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong, though. Where did the Zodiac killer kill? San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
He described it as the most vicious stabbing he had ever seen, and the coroner posited that the stabbing may have been an attempted decapitation, which was why there were so many slash marks on the neck. Like the first two victims, his identification had been taken, leaving him identified as John Doe by the police until he could be properly identified. He was determined to be Klaus Achim Klaus with a C, Christman. So his first name was Klaus with a K, but he went by Klaus with a C. That's the American version. A 31-year-old German national who was visiting his friends, Mr. and Mrs. Booker Williams, in San Francisco. Unlike the previous two victims, though, Klaus was married and had 2 children who were still at home in Germany while he was on his 3rd month living in the States.
Now, was he in the closet?
That's what they suspect. Let me tell you why. His body was found fully clothed and with a, quote, makeup tube on his person, which police used to suggest that he may have been a closeted gay man. Of which, this is not confirmed. Purely speculation, so just want to make that clear. I also read that the coroner also noted that he had a tube of face paint in his pocket. I'm assuming that's what he means by makeup tube. And wore orange bikini shorts under his pants, which led police to consider that he may have been working as a drag queen, or, again, female impersonator, in secret. The coroner noted that his pants were unzipped, supporting investigators' theory that he had retreated to this quiet location to participate in a consensual sex act before he was being attacked.
Quite some evidence there.
Yeah, and that's what's, so crazy about this, is that there is, these are, pretty brutal, and there is a lot left there, and yet this man has still never been caught.
So, we've gone over 3 so far. Mm-hmm. What's connecting all 3 of these?
So what's connecting them is that they are all found very similar, location wise, found very close to each other within 2 miles.
Okay.
But they're also all found in isolated scenic areas where you would think a Lover's Lane kind of situation, except it's by a lake where it's isolated enough that you could go and have a sexual encounter without being caught.
Okay.
Because there's nobody there. And then that they were all likely last seen or suspected to last be seen, in the gay area in Castro of San Francisco, and that they were all supposedly gay.
Now, when is the third one happening again?
So, the third one happened in July of 1974.
So we're in month 7.
Mhm.
Okay.
After this third killing in such close proximity to the first two, within less than a mile of Gerald, the first one, and 2 miles from Jay, and with such similar surrounding circumstances. Wow, you read my mind. Where they were likely last seen, being found close to the water, isolated, etc., police felt that these three murders were linked, and so they began investigating it as a serial murder case. Because at this time, I do believe that by this time in the mid 70s, like serial murder had become a thing. We didn't used to call it that. Um, I don't remember what the term was, but like serial killer didn't come along until the 70s when we had like the uptick in how many killers there were. Ted Bundy, um, Ed Gein, I believe was in the 70s. Um, you know, the big numbers.
Yeah. In Germany, they had the Frankfurt sewer murders guy.
Yeah. So a police bulletin regarding these three murders read, quote, "Victims 1 and 2 have homosexual propensities, and due to underclothing and makeup in victim number three's pocket, he may also have had the same." Their working theory at the time was that the perpetrator was operating from a place of shame, participating in gay sexual acts, and then acting out against his romantic partners either during or afterward. So they were essentially saying this is a closeted homosexual person who is struggling with his own internalized homophobia. While this is an entirely possible profiling theory, I also want to make sure that everyone's aware that this is not only the only explanation for an individual going after gay men. Like, that was a. If you were gay and out or gay and at locations that catered to gay individuals, you had a target on your back. Like, it's possible that this man was impersonating someone who was gay in order to kill people. Like, there's so many different things, and we're just never going to know the true motive until a suspect has been caught and they speak, or ever really, if that even that doesn't happen.
First off, just pulling everything's fucked up. But, like, the sheer amount of targeting of gay individuals is absurd.
Yeah,
And I feel from everything, because I'll be honest, I'm a little familiar with this.
I wasn't familiar with it at all until you suggested that it might be a case I would like.
Yeah, what did you think of the case, though?
I had a like, not that it's fun to like research serial killings. I did really enjoy researching this one. It has a lot of complex like things involved with it that like I'll break down a little bit more later, but
And when you get further in, there's a certain spot I hope you got to that I really want to talk about. I mean, it's just needle in a haystack of anti-LGBTQ plus violence going on, which is what makes this difficult.
yeah.
I just from what like I've read and seen and whatnot, I think it's more not necessarily a closeted individual, but somebody who just hated them.
That's kind of, I mean, same, if I'm being honest
Yeah,
with
can I
you.
see like you said the analysis that they think it might be a closeted individual with internal homophobia for that reason. It just sounds like somebody with homophobia
Yeah.
taking
And
things
but I
into
mean,
their
it's
own
not
hands.
we would be remiss to say that it couldn't be possible this person knew they like felt they were gay and hated that about themselves and therefore took it out on other people.
Yeah, granted, I mean I've heard of somebody who does that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot more common than you think it is. Like, especially like even not even just killings, but even just being like an asshole towards people in this community can come from a place of being like self-hatred.
Like anti-gay politicians who turn out to be gay.
Who's the dude who was a fraud?
Oh shit. George Santos.
Yeah, wasn't he? Didn't he come out?
He was a drag queen,
Yeah,
gay.
wasn't JD Vance apparently a drag queen?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just making that up. Sorry, JD. I guess. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not sorry.
There's recently. I think it's a no. I think it's South Carolina. uh, state representative who he was vehemently against pedophiles and child pornography and stuff, and just got caught.
I saw that. Ugh.
I just listened to an episode of another podcast on it, and just so much irony.
Isn't it true too that the RNC, the Republican National Convention, doesn't Grinder go like absolutely batshit when that shit's
Everyone
in?
makes that claim. I don't think there's anything backing that.
It would be funny though,
Yeah, but I don't
because I
know.
would not be surprised.
Yeah, the only thing I know that is correlation is pizza and Pentagon.
Nice.
Do you know about that?
Yeah, you've told me that like a million times.
Actually, no, I think Kevin's told you a million times.
Someone has told me a million times, and I'm sick of hearing about the pizza
I'm
at the
pretty sure
Pentagon.
he's the one that says it. I think that's the first time I've actually ever brought it up to you. There was pizza at the Pentagon this weekend.
Because it happens whenever there's like big talks about something, right?
Whether the U.S. military is about to strike somebody or their
Because they have
ally
to work
will.
for so long,
Yeah,
like so that they order pizzas because it's
Yeah,
easier.
the pizza tracker's been going off this past week.
Actually, I think that was in an episode of Jon Stewart's show.
Oh yeah, it was.
I think that's where I heard it from too, not just Kevin or you. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take that out on you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But now let's go back to
Yes.
the Doodler. So we've gone through 3 victims, and they think they might know, at least a basic profile of the individual.
Yeah, a basic profile from, their 1970s profile standards. In August of 1974, about 2 months after the third victim was found, the Sentinel...
Wait, August? That's 1 month after July.
Oh, right. Well, I think it was end of August.
Oh, and that was beginning of July?
Yeah, July 7th.
Okay.
My bad. So it's like, you're right.
Month and a half.
6 weeks, maybe? I don't know.
Some amount of time. That's over 1 month exactly.
My bad. An LGBT publication, The Sentinel, an LGBT publication who paid the most attention to this story, considering these men were one of their own, ran a series of articles on the 3 murders. A quote from an August 9th article reads, actually, so it was the beginning of August, so I was wrong. It is literally 1 month, not 2. Quote, all apparently involved the victim meeting someone who suggested driving to a remote area as the beach or Ocean Beach or Golden State Park. All 3 were viciously stabbed front and back, and all 3 were stripped of identification and property. At this point, all 3 victims were clearly linked, but there was also other murders happening at the time. So police were following up leads all over the city. And articles were printed wondering if 3 active serial killers could be at large at this time. An article entitled The Sado Murder Horror carried an account of both the murders and a link to what we would now consider the BDSM scene. Police followed leads throughout the LGBT community, visiting nightclubs in the Castro, the Tenderloin District, and in other predominantly gay nightclub areas. While it was great that the police appeared to be putting in some effort to do these investigations, it also made it more difficult to determine who some of the victims were and who was connected to what killer. Because similar profiles, but they're killed in different ways. I mean, again, in 1974, 129 gay men were killed, 131 in 1975.
But you're averaging over 10 a month.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The next victim would not end up being identified until January of 2022 after being found unconscious in Land's End on April 27th of 1975. So we went from July of 74 to April of 75. I think it would be ridiculous to me. Like, I just think it would be ignorant to think that this man wasn't killing during that time.
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
I mean, we got January, then we have June, and then we have July, and now we've got April of the next year. I'm thinking that's probably why they think there's upwards of 14. It would follow some kind of pattern with the months, but I don't know. This victim's name was Warren Andrews, and he was a 52-year-old lawyer for the U.S. Postal Service in San Bruno, California. He was discovered in a pool of blood by a hiker and had been unconscious but alive at the time when he was discovered. Unfortunately, though, he suffered traumatic injuries from being brutally beaten by a rock and a tree branch and would die in the hospital 7 weeks later after never regaining consciousness. Land's End, where Warren was found, is located just north of Ocean Beach, where 4 of the other victims' bodies were found. I'm going to discuss the next one next. According to San Francisco Police Department, Andrews fit the Doodler's victim type. A white gay man.
Well, that's a pretty general description.
Yep. And his pattern of leaving bodies in San Francisco parks. I have a hard time believing that this is connected to the Doodler. And I say that because he was beaten with a rock and a tree branch. He wasn't stabbed. And stabbing is the method for all of the other murders connected to this killer. Not to say that he couldn't. Maybe he didn't have a knife on him or whatever. I'm not sure. I'm just not convinced. But obviously, we don't have all the information. So, what do you think? Think that's connected?
It just seems not as discreet because the guy's alive and he was beat by a rock. You said right?
Rock in a tree branch.
Oh, so wait, the guy he ended up dying, right?
Yeah, 7 weeks
Okay.
later,
Did he say much or
he was he never gained consciousness.
okay? So maybe any stab wounds or no?
Nope.
Okay, so that's I could see the rock and tree branches if he didn't die from stab wounds and he got desperate. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm convinced.
Yeah.
Also, I just looked up just curious. There are multiple other serial killers active in the San Francisco area.
Yeah. You want to know who one of the most active was?
What
The Golden State Killer.
was he active in that
He was
area?
not necessarily San Francisco, but he was active all like up and down the coast of California.
Okay.
Like he's called the like East Area Rapist, I think it is. The Ear Rapist. Like he was called Ear. He was also like he had like 4 different nicknames because he was in 4 different areas he was committing crimes.
And you said this was on trail, right?
On a trail.
Yeah, this last one.
Yeah, he was discovered on the Land's End Trail.
The trail side killer was active at the time in San Francisco.
Come on now, see that come on.
I don't know what his method was,
Yeah.
but I've already just seen 3 other serial killers active. No, 4 other serial killers active in. Well, actually, I think it would be 7 because one was a group of 4.
I just never could understand what the fuck about the 70s had people just serial murdering everybody, specifically in California. So many of them were obviously I know Ted Bundy wasn't just in California because he was in Seattle, I think it was, Washington, as well as Florida, as well as
And the Golden State Killer was active in this area at the time.
I was gonna say I thought he was. I do talk about him a little bit later.
Let's see, another guy active. Oh, yeah, I'm finding quite a few. I don't.
Hey, if you were living in San Francisco in the 70s, are you okay? I feel like that had to have been so terrifying.
Here's another one. San Mateo Slasher. Hey, we have a dedicated listener in San Mateo. So.
Best of luck.
San Mateo Slasher, January to April of 1976.
That's so crazy.
The only reason that one stood out to me is because we have a San Mateo listener. So shout out to you because I see the stats for all of you listening. I like to keep track. Yeah. Oh my God, there's just so many. I mean, some of these are women killers. So
yeah, not all of them killed gay men, obviously.
Yeah, but some
the Golden State Killer, which could have been a case we could have done if they hadn't solved it 5 years ago. He killed whoever he felt like it. He raped a lot of people, but then he would kill single women, and then the newspapers would report that he would not go after single women with a dog, so then all the women would get dogs. And then he started going after women with dogs. And then he would say, oh, well, if you have a man in the house, he won't go after you. So then he started going after couples. Anytime the newspaper would say he wasn't going after a victim type, he would start going after that. He didn't want anyone to feel safe.
One of the most baffling things is still the letter that his daughter wrote saying that he shouldn't be in prison for all this stuff.
Yeah, it's a whole disaster. But anyway, that is not the case we're talking about today.
This is not that.
No.
But I just went through this. There's so many activists. All of them are given these kind of cool names. Stop giving.
It's really fucked up, yeah. So the 5th victim, though this one was technically the 4th connected because that last one wasn't until 2022, was discovered on Monday, May 12th of 1975, so only 2 weeks after Warren. So a hiker discovered 32-year-old Frederick Elmer Kappen in the sand dunes a quarter mile south of Ocean Beach. He'd been stabbed like the other victims and was determined to have died from strikes directly to his aorta and heart. The coroner notes, quote, there was dried blood smeared on the soles of both shoes, on the hands, about the face, and upper torso, the anterior, lateral, and posterior. So those are 3 terms for different areas of the body.
We're back to stabbings.
Yep. Drag marks in the sand indicated that his body had been moved approximately 20 feet. Different from previous victims, though we do know that at least one of them appeared to also have been dragged, but just a short amount of time, short length. So they believe he had been dead for roughly 10 hours, meaning he likely died the night before, so Sunday, May 11th. Frederick was identified through fingerprints that were matched to well, that were matched to those taken, quote, by the state when he became a registered nurse. So prior to being a nurse, he had served in the United States Navy as a medical corpsman and was decorated. That's how you say that, right? It's not corpsman.
Yeah, I
It's
believe you're.
corpsman.
Yeah.
Okay. And was decorated with medals following serving in the Vietnam War. He'd been wearing a corduroy jacket and a striped Picasso shirt when he was killed. He had strong family ties to his grandparents and sister, who lived in Port Angeles, Washington, where he was originally from. We're very sad. Again, the location of the murder was in a natural, isolated setting near the beach in Golden Gate Park. And the time of the murder seemed to coincide with the natural time to retreat with a new romantic partner to a more private location, ideal for a sexual encounter. The final known victim that has been linked to the Doodler, so I guess he actually has 6. It was 5 before they identified the new one.
Okay.
So that was my bad. Was found on June 4th, 1975, in the bushes in a decomposed state.
This one's been longer.
I'm pretty sure. I can't. He has 5 or 6 right now.
Well, we're on the 5th one, right?
Maybe. So then maybe I was right with 5.
Yeah, because we talked about the one on the.
God, I'm terrible at math.
We talked about the first 3, and then the 4th one, which is off the trail, which you aren't sure about if that one's his, and now we're on the 5th one. Let's wait.
No, I'm on the 6th.
Yeah, you're on 6. Yeah,
My gosh.
I literally just counted 5. I'm like, what am I? I count. Like you talked about 4 as I count 5.
I'm so bad at math. I'm sorry, everybody. So I was saying earlier that it was 5 that were identified. That was because the articles I took that from were likely written before they identified the 6th guy. So apologies for that. I should have checked myself.
We can't do math.
No, I suck.
I wonder if the episode is going to make chapters on Spotify and one's going to be said we can't do math.
Maybe. So the final known victim that has been linked to the Doodler officially was found on June 4th, 1975, in the bushes in a decomposed state, likely about 2 weeks after he had been killed. He was found by the 16th tee of the Lincoln Park golf course. Lincoln, like the president, not to be confused with Lincoln Park, the very good band. So, divorced dad rock, if anyone else listens. So, this location was just a little to the northeast of Ocean Beach. So, it was pretty close to where the other victims had been found. And the coroner reported that the, quote, deceased had no underpants and his blue pants were unzipped, which was similar to other victims. He was identified as Harold Goldberg, who was a 67-year-old, so the oldest victim, Swedish sailor who had initially been known as John Doe number 81 during the investigation. He is slightly inconsistent as a victim with the other homicides because he was far older than the others, though, there was also a 55-year-old, so not that big of a difference, I guess. And it could have, if he was a sailor too, I feel like he probably looked younger than he was. Maybe, I don't know. That was calling for the Doodler. Any comments or questions about the victims before I move into the investigation?
So, are there any other suspected victims?
Not that I couldn't find any that were identified by name. But if there's 6 victims here, they believe he has 14. So that means that they think they have at least 8 others they can connect.
Okay, but they haven't listed who they are.
No.
Okay, that's what I was just curious on because, I think, like based on what you're saying, time span, I'm thinking there's probably more.
Definitely. So while the Doodler remains unidentified and at large, it does not mean that the police had no leads or no suspects. Among the 3 victims who survived, there was a, quote, well-known entertainer who reportedly stated that he was about to go to bed with a young man, matching the description when the knife fell out of the man's coat. And then he was assumed stabbed. And a diplomat who was stabbed 6 times. It's unknown what the 3rd victim's occupation was, but he was said to have left the city, and he would not respond to police phone calls. While unwilling to testify, all three of them were unwilling to testify, likely due to fear of persecution and being outed at the workplace by having to testify in court. There was one of them who was able to give a police sketch artist enough information to get a picture of who this killer was. It was released about 5 months after the last known victim was found, Harold Goldberg, who was a 67-year-old Swedish man. He was described as a black man, which often gave the Doodler an additional name of the Black Doodler. Original.
What?
Yeah. He was said to be between 19 and 22 years old, slender and thin, somewhere between 5'10 and 6 foot tall. And he was also described as frequently wearing a, quote, Navy type watch cap. No idea what that means. I'm assuming similar look to a Navy's cap. He was known to frequent nightclubs, bars, and restaurants in the Upper Market and Castro areas, of which both were known for their LGBT friendliness. The reason that he was called the Doodler was because he would leave behind sketches of the victims. Inspector Rotea Guilford, the lead investigator.
Oh, you never mentioned this beforehand.
What?
You never mentioned this beforehand.
What?
That he left sketches of the victims.
That's my understanding because everybody made sure to say that the sketches had never been released. So I'm assuming that he left them behind. Maybe not at the crime scene, maybe at the bar.
Okay.
So Inspector Rotea Guilford, the lead investigator on the case, told the Sentinel, the newspaper that focused on LGBT things, that the suspect, quote, often sits in bars doodling caricatures and cartoons on napkins. This made police think that he may have been an art student, given his age, and by all accounts, the Doodler was a good-looking young man with real artistic skills who would enter gay bars and restaurants looking for his next victim. Once he identified one, he would sketch them, flatter them with the sketch, and suggest that they leave the public location for somewhere more private to engage in sexual acts with one another. Unfortunately, these encounters would be the last time that the victims were seen alive. It's also important to note that none of the victim sketches were ever released to the public in an effort to protect identities and sexualities. Reportedly, the victim who provided the information for the sketch met the suspect after the bars closed in July of 1975, so towards the end, at the truck stop diner near Market and Church Streets, where the suspect drew animal figures on a napkin. He told the victim that he was in art school and was studying to be a cartoonist. That's what the police say. With this information, police theorized that the victims had all died after meeting with the suspect near the locations where their bodies were recovered. So they met where the restaurants and bars were, moved to somewhere that was quieter and isolated. The victim who provided information for the police sketch was accurate enough that a suspect was actually identified during the course of the original case in the 70s. In January 1976, the San Francisco Chronicle ran a story about the Doodler. Wow, what?
The Doodler.
Ran a story about the Doodler, and 2 days later, a suspect was arrested. According to the Sentinel, the suspect was in custody and he had been detained, quote, outside a Tenderloin bar last Friday night after a bar patron called to report that a man fitting the composite drawing furnished by the SFPD had entered the bar and was offering to draw sketches of patrons. According to the paper, quote, the man was carrying a butcher knife and a book of sketches when the police nabbed him.
Wow, this is
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Police reportedly questioned the young man for some time, and he was said to have cooperated with the police during his interview, though he never admitted guilt for the murders or attacks.
Why would he?
Why would he? Yeah. Officers stated that they strongly believed that the man in question was responsible for the crimes, but, as you might be wondering, since we're talking about it on our podcast, Unknown, Unsolved, Unseen, he was never tried or convicted because of the survivors not wanting to appear in court for reasons that I already stated. To this day, the suspect has not been named publicly or apprehended, and very little information is available to the public about the crimes. So what I have information for you is the only information that's really out there.
Okay, so I'm happy you brought up that one thing because the one thing that always struck me on this case is that they, by sounds of it, basically identified and found the man.
Yeah.
And then, because of fear of coming out, they were closeted. And I believe these were like high level people.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't let it come out, and you can't anonymously testify.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I do go into that a little bit later too.
Okay.
So
yeah, so he got off, and this might be why there are no more killings.
could be. Police reportedly questioned the young man for some time, and he was said to have cooperated. Did I already say that?
Yeah.
My bad. Okay. It was also reported that the suspect was undergoing psychiatric care and even noted that the SFPD knew the therapist and had spoken with the said therapist, who admitted that this patient had admitted to the killings.
Oh.
However, this is all hearsay, and the suspect was still unable to be prosecuted on this supposed confession alone. Inspector Rotea Guilford would later tell the SF Chronicle, San Francisco Chronicle, quote, "He's having difficulty with his sexuality. He's probably ashamed of what he's doing. Homosexuality has never been accepted in the black community. The guilt he is experiencing causes him to want to erase the acts that he's committed." As I said before, I want to make it very clear that these are words from the 70s. And while it could be an accurate portrayal of the killer, we also have to remember that there was a lot of stigmatization against the LGBT community at the time, and this could have just been a cop out or an easy way for the police to justify the murders of these men.
All right. Now, is that what they said after they identified him?
Um, this was part of the profile,
Okay.
so I'm assuming maybe if they talked, that could have been from talking to him, but I didn't read specifically where that came from.
Okay.
I also want to point out that it's unknown how the police identified the psychiatrist and what procedures happened for them to be able to talk with this person. Nowadays, we have a law called HIPAA or HIPAA, which ensures patient-provider confidentiality, and it wasn't passed, though, until 1996. So the only ways to break that are reporting child, elderly, or disabled people abuse, if the person's going to kill themselves or someone else, or significantly harm, or if in the case of a subpoena to appear in court, the judge rules to set aside confidentiality to share information. Being as HIPAA was enacted in the 90s, I'm not sure if any similar policies existed at the time or not, but that could, if they did exist and they went around them, that could show you some, I don't know, corruption maybe in the SFPD. If they didn't, and it was a thing of the times, you could just go talk to providers. I'm glad that we have HIPAA now. So, anyway, that's me on my soapbox, considering I work in a field that abides by HIPAA rules. So I know I mentioned it earlier, but I am going to expand on it now. It is very likely that the 3 victims who survived refused to come forward and testify due to not wanting to be exposed as homosexuals or members of the LGBT community. As, again, we aren't aware 100% if they were gay or if they had other sexual orientations. That same inspector, Rotea Guilford, would go on to state, quote, "My feeling is they don't want to be exposed as homosexuals," obviously. As you can probably imagine, this likely did not go well for these men, and the public was outraged. An Associated Press headline read, quote, "Murder suspect free because gays silent." I don't.
That's such an awful way to write it. Who wrote that? Did you say?
This is the Associated Press.
Okay. Okay. If you're going to say the SF Chronicles, which you've mentioned multiple times, I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't think any of us will ever know what it would have been like to be in those men's shoes. At the time of the murders, gay sex was still illegal in California, and this wouldn't change until January of 1976. So, like, being gay was against the law, which we knew. It was also part of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. It was considered a disorder up until the last edition. So we're in the 5th now. The 4th edition, it was still in there, I believe.
Interesting that I only recently started like listening to this, or like hearing about some of this stuff, like the being illegal and whatnot, because I'm trying to think of the word all of a sudden. I listened to a recent episode on the Stonewall riots from
Mm-hmm.
National Park After Dark, and that was really fascinating.
Yeah, so I didn't talk about it in the beginning, but when I was talking about the gay liberation movement, that actually started from Stonewall. Like, because that happened.
All right.
Again, and also at the time, being gay or in the LGBT community would also result in significant discrimination in the workplace, as well as struggles to get housing. So it doesn't surprise me that these men who were of a higher status would want to come out. At the time, gay rights activist and politician Harvey Milk publicly expressed empathy for the victims who refused to speak with police, stating, quote, "I understand their position. I respect the pressure society has put on them." Milk elaborated that the three men likely feared damaging relationships with their family, as well as their high-profile jobs in the workforce, citing that he believed 20 to 25% of the 85,000 gay men in San Francisco at the time were likely closeted about their sexualities. No idea how these statistics came about.
I mean, that's just him taking a guess, and it's probably a safe guess based on being part of the community.
Yeah. There was still significant distrust among gay men with the police force, and honestly, truly, they had every right to distrust the police. Um, so it doesn't surprise me that this case went the way that it did, and that things happened the way that it did, because I think there was a lot of different factors that were working against finding justice for this killer. And eventually, the police suspected the Doodler may have killed as many as 14 people. Right now, that's not confirmed, and there's also no identifying information to determine if there were additional victims. So, you might be asking yourself, or me, I always say this in every episode, but truthfully, I feel like I have to explain myself. Paige, why'd you choose this case during Pride Month? It's a really devastating case to have during Pride Month. Well, before I answer that question, I also want to make note of why I think case was so publicized and why the police seem to have actually taken it somewhat seriously. Well, the victims were all white males.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm seeing what you're saying now because I mean, it's a fact, and I know people will fight this fact tooth and nail, but I mean, crimes against minorities are less reported and cared about by authority, and that's just something statistically that's found. I mean, you look at missing indigenous and women of color in national parks; they
Hmm.
don't get the same attention as, say, a white individual would.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Well, even like sex
the
workers
system has
and
priorities.
well, I mean, even sex workers and homeless people and stuff, like, they don't get the same attention simply because of
Yeah,
being jobless or working a job that we don't deem as being appropriate. But it's not a surprise that it was taken more seriously than if the victims were of any other race or ethnicity, or hell, even sex or gender. I'm not going to go into a whole political spiel on that, but take that information as you will. Thought it was important to say. Additionally, I wanted to highlight the significant struggles that those in the LGBTQ plus community have had to endure in recent history, because this was only 50 years ago. So this guy would be in his 70s, which is crazy. Like 70, if he was 22 in 75,
he'd be in 60s now.
he would, well, 22 plus 50.
60. Wait.
75 to 2000 to 2025 is 50 years.
Okay, so
So
70s.
he'd be like in his late 60s or early 70s.
Okay.
These kinds of things are why we have things like Pride Month, and why we encourage those in this community to live authentically if they're able to safely do so. I say this as a mental health therapist who works with this community often, and it's my job to make them feel safe and supported. And I understand that this may not be everyone's cup of tea. And well, that's a hot take. Yeah. I need it to be known that this is a non judgmental and accepting podcast. I would be shit at my job if I judged people for how they want to live their lives authentically. And honest, it's not my place to do so. It's not affecting me. Um, I recognize this message is probably going to piss some people off. And I'm sorry that you seem to possess the hatred for people, but um, you know, all human beings were given the right to freedom of whatever's, being born. So maybe do some self-reflection. And if you're able to do so, please consider donating to some nonprofits like the Trevor Project, the Human Rights Campaign, the Okra Project, or even the Point Foundation. And please just hug someone that you love. Because life is freaking hard. It doesn't need to be harder by also targeting people who are already living lives that are likely harder than the rest of us. So, you have any thoughts, Frank, before I get into my last spiel?
It angers me to know that this person could have been caught because I think they deserve life in prison for this, but
I mean, I
I don't
agree.
think we'll ever get that. I'm assuming even the people today who could identify him, it's probably too late now. The evidence is just not there for us.
I mean, like if they had a like my understanding is they have a suspect. And like they've reopened, like I'm gonna get into it in a second, but they've reopened the case in the last couple of years, and I believe that they are reinvestigating that same suspect. So like it's possible, but
I think it's going to be too hard to do the case. That I mean, they didn't nothing mentioned unless they somehow did got DNA evidence, but I
yeah.
think
Well, they took DNA samples from some of the victims.
I feel like they would have a way to solve this by now. But yeah, I think this is horrible. I agree with you. This is why we have Pride Month.
Yeah.
Um, it's important to know, like know what happens to people in this community. Like they're just living their life, and people will come after them, and it's like, they're not harming you.
Yeah. I feel like that can be said for a lot of communities. But any other thoughts before I continue?
No, that's really my final thoughts. But based on everything you said, also, I think it's that guy.
Yeah. So police released the first age progression sketch in 2019. So they did have a sketch artist age progress this guy. And then in 2023, detectives in San Francisco released another updated age progression suspect sketch of the Doodler serial killer case, in an attempt to revive their investigation. I do encourage everyone to go look at the updated one. In 1975, when the first composite sketch was released, police say a woman called them and provided a name and vehicle plate for the suspect, calling twice in a span of 10 days. Police are now hoping to find this woman. Additionally, at least 2 other people called the SFPD and provided the same name as that woman. So police are also hoping that these people will again come forward and talk to them. In February of 2019, when they released the first updated age progression photo, San Francisco police offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of the killer and released a revised sketch. They've since increased that reward for information leading to this killer's identification, apprehension, and conviction from $200,000 to $250,000 because they had already doubled the $100,000 award in 2003 or 2023.
Jeez.
So it's up to $250,000 at this time. Some other information is that recent successes using DNA technology developed in the decades since the crimes have led police to re-examine evidence in this case. They later announced that they would consider using forensic genetic genealogy, which is the exact technology that identified the suspect in the Golden State Killer murders. It just takes a lot of money and a lot of time to do that kind of genealogy work.
And
But it's
this
there.
is not necessarily the group that they always want to spend a lot of money on.
Yep, even today in
Oh, yeah.
2025. So the FF, oh well, sorry.
The Fantastic
Yeah.
Four.
So the SFPD homicide detail is actively working on this cold case investigation, and anyone with information is asked to call the SFPD 24-hour tip line at 415-575-4444 or text a tip to tip 411 and begin the message with SFPD. You can also contact the SFPD Cold Case Investigations team, Tom Newland at 415-553-1144, Dominic Celaya at 415-553-9856, Daniel Dedet at 415-553-1450, or Daniel Cunningham at 415-553-9515. You may remain anonymous when you are giving a tip, if that is going to encourage people. But this is not an opportunity to make things up and fill the tip line with useless information. Please only call if you have actual information that you would like to share with the SFPD. We will put this information in, I'll have Frank put this information into the description of the episode so you can easily find it and contact the SFPD with information if you have it. If you weren't alive then, as many of us weren't, Please talk to family and friends who were known to be in the area at the time and encourage them to speak up if they have any information on this case.
We have at least one listener in the area.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Yeah. Again, you can remain anonymous. So, like, if you have information, real information, please let the police know. And it would be amazing to see in my lifetime another killer brought to justice and letting the families of the victims find some semblance of peace after the loss of their loved ones. So I encourage everyone to go check that out. Again, that'll be in our description. Don't do dumb shit. Like, take it seriously. This is very serious. And also, like I said earlier, hug a loved one. Eat a snack. That's nice. Drink whatever. Don't drink alcohol after this, but drink I don't know, a coffee or soda.
Don't be like Brad Marchand, who just minutes ago got hospitalized for alcohol poisoning.
He was the player on the team that won the Stanley Cup this year. If you're not aware. They've been partying for like 4 days straight.
Yeah, only the amount of videos I see of him specifically partying.
Yeah, but this is a really tough case. It was definitely tough. It was interesting to research, and I enjoyed putting the information together. But it is a really tough case, and so if it was something that touched you or was sensitive to you, just take care of yourself. Do some self-care or whatever you feel like doing.
You do you.
Yeah, you do you. As we would say for anybody. You're not hurting me, so you do you. But so that's what I have today from the Doodler. I hope that I was able to do this case some justice. And if you have thoughts, please leave us a comment on any of our social medias. Frank will let you know. Or even on Spotify, I believe you can do comments.
Yep.
Let us know your thoughts. If you have, like, I'm not a member of this community. I do have very, very close friends and loved ones who are members of this community. And so I can see it from that perspective. But if you are a member of the community and you have something that you would like to share or something that you think I could have done better or anything like that about this community, please let me know. I always want to, make sure that my research is good and I'm doing the justice to the people that I'm writing about. That's the hardest part of true crime, is making sure that you're doing justice for the people and you're not spreading misinformation. So yeah, that's what I got for you today.
All right. Well, I think you did a phenomenal job on your episode there.
Thank you.
And I think it's time for me to wrap up things here.
I think so too. I'm getting hungry.
All right. Well, if you guys are enjoying what you're hearing, go check out our socials.
Enjoying might not be the right word.
Sorry. If you guys,
I'm kidding.
Just overall, our episodes are enjoyable. But if you guys like what you're listening to and want to support us, go to Instagram and give us a follow, give us a like, comment, review, rate on whatever platform you're on. If you're on Spotify, leave us a rate and follow. Every little bit helps us. We really appreciate everything we see from you guys. You guys are the best. So please keep up that support of us. We really appreciate it. We've seen some growth along our accounts, and it really encourages us to keep chugging along.
Definitely.
What?
So definitely.
Yeah. And that's about it that I have for things here. So come back next week for a haunting episode that is also a little bit disturbing. So sorry about that. And come back in July for maybe some more fun episodes. Woo, fun.
Yes. Well, I guess Frank's next episode's not going to be very fun, but
yeah, we'll still make some jokes here and there, probably.
I think, and that's the thing too. If that upsets you, I'm sorry, but sometimes you have to laugh or you're going to cry, and sometimes I think some people would want us to have some humor rather than cry about their cases.
Yeah. All right.
All right. I'm ready to wrap up here. You ready to do it?
Yep. All right. So remember
to look for
the unknown,
the unsolved,
and the unseen.
Hug a loved one tight tonight.
Bye, everybody.
And stay cool. It's real hot in the East Coast.
Yep.